Hey folks, Dave Garge here, warming up for the 2022 USA Cycling Esports National Championship. Doing our ramp warm up here in the pen. Let's get it up to threshold. Thanks, Steve. Doing my warm up here in the pen. Just got to get my heart rate up to 172. All right, we hit it. All right, so in the bottom right corner of the screen here, we'll have the official broadcast. You should be able to hear the commentary and everything. It's going to be commentated by the same commentators who did UCI Worlds for cyclocross. So should be some quality commentary. We're 4 minutes from the start. Got some power gels ready to go. Got my ISO active mix in the bottles. We're ready, baby. As ready as we could be. Yes, Teppy. This is US Nationals. So, I'm in the 35 to 39 age group, and everyone in my age group is wearing the same jersey. So, the bright blue jersey. No other foundation riders in this race. There are a couple of Veselka riders. Can't recall the names. Hey, Beats. Thanks for coming. Thanks for the support, guys. This race is really important to me. I think I have a shot at the podium today. First ever USA Cycling Esports Nationals. And we're 2 minutes from the gun. So as I was saying, there are multiple age groups racing on the same course simultaneously. Well, I got into the pen early, Teppy, so I feel like I'm in a good spot to be with the front group at the gun. But we'll see. I mean, got a couple of next esports guys here. They're gonna definitely be my primary competition. Thank you, love. Thanks for your support today. So 35 to 39 is in the teal blue. All right, let me tighten my shoes here. Nice and tight. Thanks, Teppy. All right, 30 seconds. Gonna ramp it up here.
And welcome to the 2022 USA Cycling Esports National Championships. Our country's first here with USA Cycling, presented by Pro Racing and some additional partners today as we get ready to crown our first Stars and Stripes jersey in the history of the United States. Brad Toner here with Ellen Noble as we get ready to experience this on the RGT platform. They're going to be racing on the Iron Horse Esports course. This is a classic course, but Ellen, more excitingly, our first national championships, and I am so excited to have you and our third commentator here.
Thank you, Brad. I'm excited to be here with you. You know, racing national championships is always exciting, and so I'm really excited to see it take on yet another platform, you know, for these racers to get to compete for the honor. So I'm excited to be here with you.
Full day of racing on tap today. We're going to have our Masters racing up first this morning. Categories, just like the road national championship that we have. They'll be competing in 5-year age categories. Later this afternoon, we race our elite categories, the elite women and elite men at 11:45 Eastern time. And then our junior riders will take to the course at 1:30 Eastern time. Again, same story there with junior categories from 11 up to 18. The 17, 18-year-old category should be an interesting one there as well. So plenty of jerseys on the line up for grabs today. And again, very excited to award those Stars and Stripes jerseys. Now, we we are going to have multiple Masters categories on course out there at the same time. These are the jerseys that each age category will be wearing. We will basically have 4 races running for our Masters races. Our first 3 categories are going to be racing in one for the women, one for the men, and then our last 4 categories will be racing in one for the women and one for the men as well. Ellen, I am most excited to see the 80-plus jersey here because we do have confirmed competitors in the 80-plus category. How cool is that?
It's so cool. I'm super excited to see that. It's always a highlight at the other national championships, so I'm sure it will be just as exciting here.
Well, we'll also talk a little bit more about this course. One of the coolest things about racing on RGT here is that these are real-life courses. So what they do is load in the GPX file from an in-real-life road course. In this case, we're racing on the Iron Horse Bicycle Classic course just north of Durango, Colorado. A lot of riders I know have been there either to ride the Fondo or to do the Iron Horse race. So this is an in-real-life race that a lot of these riders will have experienced having raced the Iron Horse Classic in real life. It's a nice out-and-back loop out there with one really big climb on the course. It's basically racing up this canyon. You know, they race the Durango to Silverton train. We'll talk about that a little bit, but it's really about that sort of turnaround out at the far side of the course. That's where most of the climbing comes on this loop, and Ellen, I think that's where this race is going to be won and lost. You got to look for those hard places on the course to attack, and it looks like that far end of the course is the toughest place to me.
I would say so, yeah. Looking at this profile, it's pretty distinct where I think a lot of the action is going to be happening.
And then, of course, the descent on the way down. We'll also talk about some of the physics in RGT, a little bit unique on this platform compared to some of the other more popular platforms like Zwift. We'll talk about the comparison between some of those and try and get people familiar with racing on RGT. Our Victoria Zoom room going to give us a good look at some of the riders throughout the day today. I absolutely love being able to see these riders in real time, Ellen. We're going to see the reactions, the pain faces, and my favorite thing is the setup. I like rating everybody's pain cave setup, so we'll go through some of those throughout the day today.
I'm definitely excited to see in the Zoom room. I'm pretty nosy and I love, seeing the pain cave setup. So I'm really excited to have a glimpse into kind of the behind the scenes, if you will, of this event.
Right. Well, riders have just rolled off the start line, so let's go out to some live action on our virtual course. Again, just outside of Durango. 4 different categories, or 4 different races, I should say, out there racing with multiple categories in each. So we'll do our best to let you know which category we're on. But again, we're going to be looking back at that jersey guide quite a bit today to just keep an eye on how things are going. So it looks like pretty much everyone's staying together here early on. There is a little bit, just a small group in the upper left corner. Much like in real life racing, Ellen, here on RGT, it sort of takes a while for that first breakaway to establish. You see a lot of early moves with riders trying to go away, but it takes just trying to find that right match of riders and the scenario and teams all involved in that breakaway.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of takes that perfect storm to happen, and it's so incredibly rare for the first move or for the early move, sometimes the move that goes from the start. It's so incredibly rare for that to be the race-winning move. So I think a lot of people are content to let, this lead group that we see off the front right now kind of sit back, and just let them take the lead, work the legs, and just sort of relax until it comes back together.
Let's take a look at our Masters women's group here in the upper left-hand corner first. Some familiar names in here. I recognize Stephanie Sidlick in this group, did a lot of racing on RGT. She was part of the Echelon Racing League in Season 1, raced a little bit in Season 2 as well. I think having some experience on this platform is going to be huge for any rider that was able to even get a couple races on RGT. Learning the drafting, learning how to ride in a group, just like in real life, it's an acquired skill to understand how to do that. A big part of it, Ellen, is modulating the power. Most people don't realize how hard it is to really hold a bike at like 160 watts, at exactly 160 watts. So most people do 120 to 200, and there's kind of a pretty big range of wattage that they do.
Yeah, I definitely think that it takes a bit more finesse. Platforms like this do a really great job of trying to emulate that real ride feel, but it's definitely a little bit different. And so kind of understanding that strategy and understanding the nuances of where these Where these platforms differ from riding on the road is definitely a really big advantage. Having only done a little bit of virtual racing, you can definitely feel the difference once you finally get on your kicker and start pedaling.
We'll go over to our 35-39 men's category up next. That'll be in the upper right-hand corner of your screen here. Looks like these guys mostly all together. A little bigger field here. Now again, multiple categories. The 35-39 are wearing the light blue jerseys, and then the 40-44 are wearing the pink jerseys. Rider in the black here, I think that's going to be a 40-49 rider. So again, until you see riders with the same jersey in the same group, technically those are different age category riders. Like Chan and Kellison here are racing together, but they're going to be scored separately because Kellison racing in the 45-49 age category and Chan racing in the 40-44. Here comes Catanzaro in the 35-39 age category. So this is kind of tough. One, you have to understand who you're racing against, right? You get into a breakaway or you get into a scenario, you have to take inventory, figure out who you need to worry about. But at this point, I think you kind of just race this as if everybody is in the same category, because the group dynamics are still going to be the same in terms of getting a breakaway going, forming a group, something like that. All of that will be very similar. And so I'm guessing right now that these riders are just looking for, a chance to get a group going.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, and I think especially on a platform like this, but I think even in real life racing, or I don't know, maybe not real life racing, but in the wild, a good wheel to follow is a good wheel to follow regardless of the category. And I think sometimes it can be kind of nice to get into a break with riders that you're not directly competing against. That increases your odds. So I'll be really curious to see how the tactics play out later today.
They do have a chat function in the game, and then they can also do some hand gestures kind of. So you can wave at other riders, you can encourage them to come along, you can kind of try and recruit some help for a breakaway if you're trying to get something started. Good look at Chris Navin in his pain cave. Chris rides for the XXX Racing team out of Chicago, Illinois. Take a look at that paint cave. This guy looks like he's on the International Space Station. He's got the tablet up top, he's got the gameplay camera in front, and then looks like the goal board over there as well. He's got the Echelon Series, USAC Nationals, and then targeting UCI Worlds, I also see Go Jackie written underneath, cheering on Jackie Godby, who's going to be racing in our elite women's race later on in the day. Jackie also rides for that XXX Racing team, so nice to see Chris cheering on some of his XXX teammates.
That's super sweet. I'm loving seeing this behind the scenes, and I think it's really cool to see, you can see the power that they're doing on screen, but to be able to see the riders behind the avatar and kind of see sort of the pace that they're going, it looks like, he has a lot left in the tank. He's clearly not going out too hard, so I think that's going to be a real treat today to get to watch what these riders look like.
Going hard on the front there. Kellison going into the red zone, keeping things interesting. Let's go down to Masters Women up next. This will be the 50-plus categories, 50 to 64 to be exact. Looks like this group locked in together. Now, I want to talk about the power zones that these riders are in. You notice each name has a color bar beneath their avatar. So you see Blickstein on the front here in the sort of orange power zone, occasionally hitting red. That is each individual rider's power zone. And so the game tracks your maximum power. It has sort of a power profile for each individual rider. And then that tells us, based on your watt per kilo ratio, sort of where in your zone you are. So it's a good way to tell how hard the riders are going based on their individual strength to weight ratio. So when they're in the blue or green zones, that means they're riding a little easier. And then you can see as they move into the yellow, orange, and red zones, those tend to be the harder efforts. So like Montoya at the back right here, trying to chase back on. You see in fifth position, going into the red zone, trying to close down that gap. And here's why, because drafting is huge on RGT. In the upper left corner of the screen here, you see that sort of EKG looking thing beneath the three important numbers: power, cadence, heart rate, and then below that is your power zone. It is also going to be a drafting indicator. So when you get into the draft of a rider in front of you, it shows you how many watts you're saving. You see that green number right there popping just in the middle. So the riders will be watching that, and you have to, this goes back to the gameplay element of RGT. RGT. You have to really be able to sort of watch that number and make sure that you're maximizing your draft, just like in real life, Ellen.
Absolutely. I think it's really cool. I think this is definitely a little bit of, a nerdy aspect to racing, and I'm certainly enjoying it. I'm really liking learning more about this platform, and I think, kind of maximizing that efficiency can be really great, learning for riders, out in the world.
Training for virtual racing is a whole nother animal. I would imagine training for like a 4-hour road race would be very different from training for an hour-long intense virtual race. This probably matches up pretty close with a lot of the workouts that you would do, Ellen, for a cyclocross prep. I mean, it's an hour, it's very intense efforts, there's a lot of bridging and chasing, things like that. How do you train for stuff like that? I mean, are you still doing long days on the bike, training for an hour-long effort? Like, what does a training day look like for somebody targeting an hour-long race?
Yeah, for an event, that's about an hour long, you will want to, if you have the time, so especially like talking about kind of more professional and elite level racers that aren't working full-time jobs, if you have the time, you want to be training like quite a ways above the event length so that your endurance, so you can do quite a bit more than what you need to on race day, so that you'll be able to warm up, do the event, and cool down and not even come close to bonking. We'll do 4 or 5 plus hours at times ahead of a 45-minute to an hour-long race. But I think where races like this can differ is that you're truly on the pedals the entire time, in an event like this. And that's something that's really unique with virtual racing. For cyclocross, like kind of what I specialize in, we kind of thrive in finding those moments where you can go off the pedals and you can coast and recover. Whereas here, not in my experience have I noticed that there's a lot of opportunities to just coast and relax. Yeah. They will get a chance on the downhill. At the bottom of the screen right now, you see the total course profile. That's the course profile of one whole lap. So those white dots represent the riders on course. They're about to hit that big climb that we saw in the course profile, and then the blue sections after that, there are some sections where you will be able to descend. Now, if you can lock onto a wheel in front of you, it'll put the riders into this like super tuck, and you can get a 0 on your power meter. You can afford to stop pedaling for a little bit, but you have to be with someone. You have to be able to sit in that draft. So again, just like real life, there is an art to that part of it. You also get to take you don't have to pedal through the corners. RGT is very unique in that it scrubs off your speed and power when you're going through a corner. So just like in real life, there's a maximum speed that you can go into, let's say a 90-degree corner. So if you're putting any more wattage in than that speed going into a corner, that's just wasted wattage in this game. And so it punishes you for trying to pedal through a corner, because you wouldn't be able to put that power in real life, right? You would slide out. And so you do have to basically stop pedaling to set up into the corner, and then there's an optimum time to resume pedaling coming out of the apex to try to maximize your speed coming out of it. So that's another one of the differences of gameplay here on RGT compared to Zwift or Rovi or whatever other platform you're familiar with. Super cool. I think just watching this kind of through the lens of a lot of virtual racing that people do in the winter, and then in the summer months they get back out on the road. I think that there's so much to learn, that even in virtual racing, they're teaching riders not to waste their energy going too fast through a corner and stuff like that. I think that virtual racing can really help you prepare, so much more than I think we initially thought for live racing.
Well, you see this group locking in. We'll call this group of 6, and looks like they're going to work pretty well together here. Seems like they have figured out how to pace line within this group. A few riders struggling off the back, trying to chase back on here. This is going to be a rude awakening. I think everybody remembers the first time they did a virtual race and just got absolutely smoked. I think that's pretty much everyone's first time experience on any virtual platform. You have to learn. And if any riders came on to RGT here cold, I think they're very quickly learning how different this platform can be in racing. So just like anything, the prep definitely pays off. Preparation is key in this. Stephanie Sidlett going solo off the front here, taking a solo flyer for the 3T Q&M cycling team. Opened up a nice gap about 400 meters up the road from her nearest competitor. Now, this is a big ask. 47 kilometers left for Stephanie here, but if anyone can go solo for 47K, it's Stephanie Sidlick. No stranger to indoor racing out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They have some cold winters up there, so I'm sure she's well-versed on the trainer. Also, not afraid to climb. We have this race in Pittsburgh called the Dirty Dozen. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. It races up the 12 steepest climbs in Pittsburgh, and they are really, really steep, like almost unrideable climbs. And they have this route where they have linked all 12 of these climbs together. Stephanie has won the Dirty Dozen multiple times in Pittsburgh. So not only can she ride inside, we know she can attack hills, so she's dangerous today.
Absolutely, and she's looking dangerous too, just being able to see a little bit into her Zoom room. You can see she's not going that hard based on appearances and also based on this, rainbow that we have. It looks like she's just in her kind of threshold right now, and I think that that's going to be sending a big warning sign to the two chasers that we're seeing on screen.
This is Nikitas and Chauvin trying to bring this back. They've got about 275 meters to make up. Now, we measure meters in the game here. You see to the right of the leaderboard on the left side of the screen. That is how they measure the distance between the players. Because we don't see a lot of really big gaps, typically we don't get into seconds because a lot of times it's only 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds. And so for the gameplay element for the riders, a lot of riders prefer that distance measurement as opposed to the time element that we would normally get on in real life road racing. So another unique part of racing on the virtual platform, another part of just learning how to race in this world. Going a little further back to fourth place, this is McMahon for the I Am, I Can, I Will, I Do racing team. Love that squad name.
We have another view into another Zoom room, and you can see that the riders are starting to heat up. That is one of the most challenging elements of virtual racing, that we can see on camera right now, is actually physically heating up and trying to stay cool, trying to keep that room. I remember the metric for doing trainer rides was trying to keep it below 55 degrees. So it looks like some of these riders are in their garage, which I think is going to be advantageous, especially in some of the colder climates, because not overheating on a day like today is such a challenge.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of riders with these incredibly elaborate fan setups as well. That becomes increasingly important in virtual racing, but getting that overall ambient temperature down is super important. So we even see riders racing outside a lot, which is this bizarre meta sort of weird thing to be racing virtually outside, but it's about regulating your body temperature. And sometimes, the AC just can't get the room down to 55 degrees, so it's oftentimes best to race outside. See a lot of riders in the basement too. That's probably also because that's the only space available. So we all tried to find space for our training areas as over the last couple of years. All right, so McMahon solo, Kellison solo in the upper right here, the men's 35 to 49 category. This is 6th place on course. We've been talking about some of the graphics on screen. Let's talk about the upper right now, because this gives us a good insight to where the riders are on course and sort of what they're riding on. At the top middle, you see the current slope that they're on. That is the gradient that they're on right now. And then there's also sort of an elevation profile of a kilometer behind them and a kilometer ahead of them. So you can see Kellison right now about to get to the top of this climb. Looks like the leaders are almost there at the front of this race, 35 to 49. Kellison about 140 meters back from the two leaders. So he may be catching on here, but I think he might be the last guy that has a shot at it. This is Catanzaro, your leader, into the red zone. I'm surprised this guy would go solo here, Ellen. I would think that you would want to stay with a couple riders, but I guess if you're feeling better than everyone else in the breakaway, might as well go.
Definitely, and I think, in some of these amateur categories, we can see, some very deliberate, intentional racing, and then sometimes, this isn't the first time that, we'll see a rider maybe making a questionable decision, but they're willing to put it all out there. Some of these riders could be really new to virtual racing or just to racing in general, with virtual riding becoming so accessible. So I'm always, so fascinated by the tactics of these races. And with a couple laps left, very exciting to see.
It looks like these three going to link up, 2, 3, and 4, trying to chase down Catanzaro here in the 35 to 49 category. Now, the only guy in the same age category as Catanzaro is the rider in the light blue jersey here, Gumbel. Soffels and Jaeger are in the 40 to 44 age category, so technically not chasing Catanzaro down because he's in a different category, but the drafting applies to all the categories, so they can work together in this group of two. Jane Jaeger, a multi-time Masters national champion in the time trial and road race. He was also on the Esports World Championship team last year, and will probably be back representing the United States this year at Esports World. So this guy's an expert. Talking about Jaden Jaeger here in third position off to the right side of the screen. Definitely one to watch, but Catanzaro looking good here, getting a 230-meter gap off the front. So Jaden Jaeger is probably as close as we're going to get to an esports specialist, which is something I never thought I would say 2 years ago. Catanzaro's got the pro setup. Look at this. He's all branded. He's got the wall. He's got the jersey, the headband. Solid setup here.
I am in awe.
I think he is also wearing a indoor racing specific kit. I've been hearing about a lot of these riders. Their clothing manufacturers are now producing extra thin material for racing inside because it doesn't need to have any UV protection. It doesn't really need to allow any airflow through. No pockets on the back. It's kind of like a skin suit, but it's almost too thin to wear outside, but they are making these specific indoor garments, I guess, for racing.
Yeah, and I guess, if you're going to be doing a lot of racing like this where there is, a broadcast into your pain cave, having the sponsors be represented, which, there's no shortage of that here, but also, not always being shirtless, I think is probably kind of nice. So to be able to have, your racing kit, without always just showing everyone your stomach is probably a welcomed change for these athletes.
I understand wanting to take the jersey off, though, because it's so hot on a trainer. There's just something about being in that stationary trainer scenario. You sweat more than it seems like you ever do in any other activity. And yeah, I can understand wanting to get the jersey off.
Oh yeah, it's unfathomable how much you sweat. And then I also feel like no matter how light or thin the jersey is, you just don't want anything stuck to your skin. It's sticky,
yeah.
So I appreciate, the technical element of what they're doing, but I don't know if I would enjoy wearing it with that much sweat.
Headbands making a comeback in virtual racing as well. Obviously, without the helmet or a cycling cap on, you got to try and manage that sweat too. This is also a public service announcement for any rider out there that's been doing a lot of training this winter. Get those bars checked because that sweat is incredibly corrosive. So if you don't have something covering your handlebars, your cables, all that stuff, make sure you take that into the local bike shop before you get outside and start riding, because if you spent the entire winter training on your bike, there's a good chance that you could have done some damage with that sweat dripping down. All right, meanwhile, looks like some separation down in the women's 50-plus categories. Let's go take a look at Smith down on the front here, who has now dropped Freestedt behind her, opening about a 70-meter gap, and sure enough, happened on the climb. So this is what was expected, Ellen. It was just sort of a slow, steady procession up the long climb here.
Yeah, it is, and it's kind of funny, to see these avatars. We're seeing gaps opening up in all of these fields, but with the avatars, it just looks like they're out for an easy cruise. So I think that's why these Zoom rooms are so interesting to see, how hard the riders are actually going as they're opening up a gap, because all of these avatars look like they're just out for an incredible ride in Durango, Colorado.
It's absolutely beautiful. It's amazing the work that they did. Actually, when you start one of these races, and we'll see this later in the day, the train is actually built into this. The Durango Silverton train actually runs along this course, and you can race it from Durango to Silverton like a lot of riders like to do. So it's another fun element of adding that virtual part to it. Smith
That's
here
really
continuing to
cute.
open her gap, going over 100 meters. I'm watching her Vittoria Zoom room camera, and I noticed that she has the different jerseys pinned up on her wall here. Look, just to her right, that is the jersey page that was sent out to the riders so she can keep track of the different categories out on course with her. So just like you would have maybe some numbers to watch taped to your top tube or your stem, or sometimes riders put like the distance where a big climb comes. In virtual racing, you're putting the jerseys you have to look out for. Smith doing 3.5 watts per kilo here, pretty steady. The upper left-hand corner of her gameplay camera, that white line, look how steady it is. We were looking at Catanzaro earlier, and there was a ton of ups and downs. It looked like an EKG. This one is like nice and flat. This is really good, steady power here.
This is not what you want your heart rate to be doing if you're ever hooked up to a monitor. But this is exactly what you want your power to be doing if you're riding off the front of Esports National Championships.
And you can see doing significantly higher watts per kilo than everyone else. She's stuck right at about 3.5, 3.7 watts per kilo. Most of the other riders hovering in the mid to low threes. So Smith is just crushing it on the front. Diesel engine over there. All right, men's 50-54 up next over here. This looks like a group of 4 riders still together. So this is your front group with Tongril, Shaw, Peterson, and Keller. Oh, look at Meyer on the back here, the 5th place rider into the red zone, trying to catch on. Oh, this is such a classic scenario where you're trying to catch the back of a group, right? Like you can see them up the road, you're going as hard as you can, and you just need to get into that draft to try to hold on.
Yeah, it's such a tough position to be in. You know, you have so much to kind of think about, like how hard should I go to try to catch on to this group? Is now the time to go? Are they going to go slower in the future? Will I have wasted my efforts? There's so much unknown trying to get back onto these groups, and you know, oftentimes it's really easy to overextend yourself to catch the group, and then you immediately get dropped again. So yeah, always a position that I'm sympathetic of when I see riders that are in Meyer's position.
And the worst thing you can do here is that yo-yoing back and forth off the group, right? Once you get in, you want to stay there. Typically, you can see a rider who's about to pop out of the group because they'll start to fall off and then chase back on. Like we were talking about the power profile, you want it to be really steady. You don't want to see a lot of ups and downs. And a lot of times when a rider's about to pop, that power profile starts going up and down a little bit more.
Yeah, and it can usually exacerbate the issue as well. So you'll be kind of at your limit. You start like, maybe I'm just going to take a little break. Basically, I'm just going to close my eyes for a second. And then you're like, oh no, I'm kind of getting dropped. So then you have to, you know, overdo it again. And so typically the best place to be in when you're kind of struggling like that is to plant yourself firmly in the middle of the group. You don't want to get too close to the back, or else it's easy for you to just get knocked right off.
And you got to trust the group as well. It's really easy on this game to have it feel like you're about to get dropped and then overcompensate with your power, kind of try and jump when you feel like that power's lifting or you see the other wattage starting to go up a little bit. It's really easy to want to immediately respond to that. But again, the more of those you do, the more ups and downs you have on that power profile, the harder your day is going to be. Meyer still trying to get in here. Come on, buddy.
You have to be rooting for him at this point, just with this effort. So much of the time that we've seen him in frame, he has been with that little red bar under his name. He is going all out right now, you know, trying to get back onto the group. And it looks like, I mean, it's kind of hard to gauge on the screen, but it does look like he's coming back just a little bit.
I think he is. Brought it under 35 meters this time. He was out to 60 at one point, so he's cut it in half. And he'll start picking up a draft once he gets within like 8 or 9 meters. So he's got to get, you know, just somewhat close to the back of the group, and then it'll kind of suck him in from the drafting element, the group at the back. These guys certainly aren't helping. Tambergel was in the yellow zone here, keeping it high. They are not waiting around for Meyer here. This poor guy.
The trouble with this unfortunate situation for Meyer is that, if I'm not mistaken, this is the descent. So this is where, as we're seeing with this group that he's trying so hard to get back onto, they're all taking it relatively easy. They're in the green and they're in the yellow after a pretty strenuous climb. So now Meyer is doing even more work right now to try to catch on to this group, in one of the only spots on course where you can have any rest. So I'm really curious to see how this plays out for him later on in the race, because this is a big effort, with still 36 kilometers to go.
And then just finally getting in, you can see it also shows how much distance you have to close in the upper left corner to get the maximum draft. So he's about 6 meters off of Peterson's wheel. That would give him maximum wattage saving. He's only saving about 20 watts right now with a few bike lengths in between. So he's trying to close that gap. But again, you don't want to go too hard to try and get into that group.
Just like you talked about earlier, Brad, it can be easy to kind of poorly pace, or, it's hard to predict the effort necessary to kind of catch the group, stay with the group. And so we can see Meyer caught on and then immediately is kind of moving through the group. Now he's jumping back and forth. I think it's really hard for him to know exactly where he needs to be in this group. It looks like he's making an attack now after that huge effort, and he's on the front. Just really complicated to play these efforts just right. And you can see his efforts on the screen looking like a very, very stressed out EKG.
Back in the group now, and looks like he's starting to calm down a little bit here. Figured out the rhythm and flow of this group. Now, only 3 riders in this breakaway are in his category. They're in those light bluish green jerseys. That's the 35 to 39 age category. Shaw, to his left, is in the 40 to 44 age category. That's the pink jersey there. And then I think they also have a 45 to 49 rider with them in there as well on the right side. So different age categories, but again, they're all riding just like one group. So for all intents and purposes right now, these guys might as well just be one race.
There's how
It looks like that is the only race left with a group on the front. Our men's 35 plus, our women's 35 plus, and our women's 50 plus have all turned into solo scenarios on the front here. Catanzaro going solo in the 35 plus race. Smith still solo in that 50 plus race, and then Stephanie Sidlick at the front of the 35 to 49 category as we pick up Sidlick on the front, crushing a 2-kilometer gap up to Chauvin here. So clearly Sidlick has figured this one out. Again, has raced a lot on RGT, has also done a lot of virtual racing as well. So very familiar with riding here. She is, again, one of the best in the country, and obviously proving that here at National Championships.
Yeah, I think we would be pretty safe to switch over to seconds now. With Sidlick, I don't think that we need kilometers anymore. This is a really, really sizable gap over second place.
A little farther back to Ryan McMahon in 4th spot. Tapping things out at right around 2.5 watts per kilo. And then hate to see this, Brian with what I think is probably going to be a mechanical. So what happens here is when riders lose connection with the game, either your power meter loses connection with whatever device you're using to connect to the game, or you drop internet, that registers as 0 power. So when you see riders showing 0 power, that usually means that they had some sort of technical issue in virtual racing, which, just like any form of racing, there's a lot of things that can go wrong in bike racing. But instead of worrying about flat tires and dropping your chain and making sure your shifting is indexed and everything, now you have to worry about your Wi-Fi and your battery and making sure the dog doesn't trip over your power cord.
It must be so hard to stay motivated in a race like this where you do have a mechanical, or even if you just have bad legs, because it's hard enough in a race when you start having a problem to stay in it. But gosh, when you're in your basement or possibly in your bedroom or a closet, and you're only a couple steps away from your couch, I can't imagine how hard it is to stay going and to continue to give it your all when you're so close to the refrigerator.
Nice wave there from Stephanie. Still motivated here. I think there's a gene in us, and you either can do it or not on the trainer. I was not blessed with the trainer gene. No matter what platform I have in front of me, I've tried the rocker boards, I've tried pretty much every kind of bike and setup on the trainer. I can't do it. I just cannot find the motivation to ride on a trainer. I'd rather be outside snowing 10 degrees for me. But some people can do it. Some people just have it, and those are the people that are racing in the national championships right now.
Yeah, it's tough. I think that, like you said, some people have the gene and some people don't. I had really good luck. I really enjoyed during the winter months having super short, intense workouts where maybe I was able to do a workout that would take an hour and a half to 2 hours outside. I'd be able to do it in 45 minutes to an hour, and we would just make it short and sweet. But anything longer than that, especially kind of doing a race, I think just adds another challenge that I just didn't quite have the mental capacity for. I think I'd rather be here with you, Brad, and commentating this event.
Yeah. Welcome to the fun side of bike racing. We just get to sit around and drink coffee, and you don't have to train for anything. So Catanzaro still solo off the front. He does have Gumbel behind him at 570 meters back, so that's still doable for Gumbel. They've got 30 kilometers of racing to go, just coming up on the halfway point here. About 37 minutes in, Gumbel can still come back from this one. Remember, it's not how you start, how you finish. They are doing 2 laps in this race, so that's one more time up that climb. This is the chasing group. Now, Gumbel is a next Esports rider, so he is virtual teammates with the guy up the road, Catanzaro. So I'm going to guess that Gumbel's probably not helping out a whole lot in this group. Maybe, dare I say, even blocking a little bit and trying to set tempo here to help his friend Scott up the road.
Yeah, it can be really hard to predict what kind of tactics people are going to be displaying, especially in amateur racing where there isn't prize money, where there isn't going to be a bonus if you help your teammate win. So I think, like you said, with Gumbel, if maybe he's not actively helping his teammate win, but most importantly, I think what a lot of these riders are trying to do is not be the one to chase their teammate down. Hopefully he's just along for the ride. If they do happen to catch his teammate up the road, then he'll be ready to go on the attack. But yeah, you don't want to be the person that's pulling back your teammate in this scenario.
Good look at Brian Kellison here for the Penn Velo Racing Summit Bicycles team. Putting yourself out there with a green screen. Bold move, my friend. This is a very, very memeable view right now. So I would be careful providing a green screen to the memers out there. This is just begging to have a background added.
Well, you're no stranger to memes yourself, Brad.
I like this setup. He's got the jersey and the hat. This guy's got some style. I like it.
The setup is I remember bike racing before we raced on the internet, especially with the cap.
Yeah, old school. And Jaden Yeager just took off from the group. They are starting to attack each other down here in the bottom right. So things were a little bit calm there for a few minutes, but now they're starting to blow up because look at this. Everybody into the red. Yeager is gone. Gumbel trying to respond. So Jaden Yeager is just hit out of this group. And that's putting Gumbel in trouble.
Oh man, I've done a ton of work trying to get this chase going. No one wants to work. So I think it's going to be a race for third between Deca and I.
Yeager is still up the road. He's 45 meters up from this guy in third. So I think Yeager's going to try and go across the gap and join Catanzaro here.
Yeah, baby.
I
think
the
this
plan,
is where
Teppy.
the different jerseys and the different categories
So this is the run into the finish.
will start to come into play.
This is what the final kilometer
Jaeger now
looks
closing
like.
the gap to Catanzaro.
It's going to be a fast
Sophos
finish.
And Gumbel just shortly behind, our chaser. And second, you start to wonder, is it better to go with someone who's not in my category, or can I kind of take it easy and just worry about racing the race within the race? So I think there's going to be a lot of game time decisions happening right now as this race is beginning to splinter.
Gumbel has the most to lose out of this group because Catanzaro is in his category, so Gumbel almost needs to go with Jaeger. This is a almost free one-way ticket up to Catanzaro here. Now, Jaeger and Catanzaro have raced together a lot. These guys have met multiple times in other races like the Echelon Racing League and I think some of the Proximus races as well. So they know each other. They're familiar with their strengths and weaknesses, and they know how strong each of them are. So if Jaeger and Catanzaro link up, man, that's a good setup if you can get into that group.
It does look like that gap from Jaeger to Catanzaro is coming down. At one point he had almost 800 meters, and now we're seeing just over 500 meters. So it looks like Jaeger, he is in the red to yellow zone right now, is closing that gap to Catanzaro.
This is the final 200 meters.
How do you decide when it's time to go? I mean, in that scenario, it looked like Jaeger just sort of exploded all of a sudden. I mean, was he waiting until he felt good enough? Are you looking at a distance? Like, do you make a marker in this scenario and say, if it gets to 600 meters up the road, I have to go? It's going away. I mean, when do you decide that now's the time to try to chase a breakaway?
It could have come down to that. It could have said, we're just about to finish up our first lap. We're just hitting the halfway point. Now's the time to go. Now this is feeling threatening. But sometimes it's not that deliberate. Sometimes it's just like, okay, I think now's the time. He had been in that group of four for a while. Things can start to get a little bit dicey. I don't know if it's quite the same with virtual racing, but they say argy-bargy a lot if people are kind of jockeying for position. So I think, if he was being forced to do a lot of work, it could be advantageous for him to just be by himself and not be dragging, the other riders around, kind of just giving him a free ride. So it can be a lot of things. Also, probably maybe the last thing, some riders are really slow to warm up. So we could be seeing with Jaeger that he is a better second half racer. And so that's really common in racing, is that some people just do really well on the last lap. So many factors, but I think we'll have a better idea of why he chose this moment to go, depending on whether or not he's able to close the gap to Catanzaro.
We'll keep an eye on it. Jaeger at 450 meters back, trying to go across right now. Over to the men's 50 to 64 age category. It looks like Tom Bragel has escaped, or is trying to, on the front here, but this is mostly these five riders have made a pretty clear selection off the back. You can see next rider is 1.5K back. So if you're in this group, you're feeling pretty good in the 50 to 64 age category. Again, the light blue jerseys, the sort of seafoam green jerseys, are going to be 50 to 54 age category riders. And then the pink jerseys are 50 to 59. So Shaw on the right side of the group is in the 50 to 59 age category. The other three in the 50 to 54 age category. And then I think they also have a 60 to 64 rider in there in Peterson at the back here.
It's good to see our buddy Meyer still at the front, still in this group.
And Meyer so far has earned the most combative award for the day. Most aggressive rider's jersey.
It's nice to see that effort that he put in to close down the gap to this group being rewarded. He's still able to be at the front of this race.
You just try and tuck in, relax, save a little bit of energy, and then get back to work, trying to work with the group here. So same thing here. These guys just at the halfway mark, 27 kilometers of racing to go, 28K down as they head out on their second lap of racing. This is just past the start-finish line. Also a good chance to get a preview of what the run into the finish looks like. You want to kind of get an idea for what that last sprint looks like, maybe where the last corner is, if there are any climbs or hills like that. You do a little bit of a preview on the first lap before sprinting it out on the second lap.
Yeah,
to
that can be
imagine
such
this
a
would be
huge advantage.
Sorry, Alan.
go
I
ahead.
was just thinking about this as a training tool because I know a lot of these riders are going to be racing this race in real life. The Memorial Day weekend, I think, is the Iron Horse Bicycle Classic. To be able to look at that course before without having to go to Durango, like if you're from the East Coast or Midwest, you've never been to Durango, you've never done that course, being able to understand what that climb really feels like and how hard it is, how long it's going to take you, I have to imagine that would be a huge advantage in trying to prep for a race that you're doing in real life, maybe a national championship. When they announce the national championship courses, you can punch that in. If that's a big target, you can be training on that all year and really focusing your efforts so that you know that course when you get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this type of racing, I just think in bike racing in general, specificity is so huge. So being able to do really deliberate efforts can make such a big difference. It was a huge part of my training was really trying to target like what were the biggest elements of this course and how can I emulate it even prior to going there. So I think something like this is going to be very advantageous for riders, especially as you said, if they live far away and they're not able to preview the course all the time. Being able to plug this in and get an idea of the profile and that race-specific effort, I think is going to be kind of a game changer. It's really interesting.
Well, looks like some action heating up down in our men's 50 to 54 age category. Let's keep an eye on that as our other three categories go solo off the front. We're going to take a quick break here from the Esports National Championships, pay some bills, and when we come back, we've got more live racing from Durango.
For the last 100 years, we've been here, while our champions have triumphed.
And since day one, it has been our mission to champion each and every rider, because the bike belongs to all of us.
We champion each mile, milestone, and memory in the saddle.
We cheer just as hard for the training wheels coming off as we do our Olympic champions.
Because it's more than just a sport, it's a way of life.
We don't just champion cycling, we champion you.
See that thing John Morant has? That's a hypervolt. That thing he uses to warm up and stay loose before he throws it down. That thing Tony Finau uses on course between shots. Ooh, that's money. That thing Robin and I use before and after we're on the bike so we can ride harder tomorrow. That thing Erlen Holland uses before smashing it into the back of the net. That thing that's for everyone. The Hypervolt from Hyper Ice. Give your body the daily relief it's been asking for.
Welcome back. USA Cycling Esports National Championships underway. Masters categories on course right now as we get ready for our elites coming up later this afternoon, and then juniors after that. We do have a great look into some of the pain caves, one of the very cool parts about racing in the virtual world. We have a rider that was nice enough to give us some insight into their pain cave that they're going to be racing here at the National Championships.
What's up, guys? I wanted to bring you into my indoor cycling cave, so come check it out. This is in my garage. As you can see, I've got my bike set up here with my trusty smart trainer. I've also got a mat. That way my trainer is solid and doesn't move around. Also in front of my bike, I've got my SARS trainer desk, which is awesome. Holds my computer, gets it up off the ground and gets it to where I can reach it, which is key. Nutrition and headphones. Headphones are key. And then we've got a 41-inch TV. I normally tilt the screen down a little bit. That way my line of sight is straight at the television while I'm racing. Having things bigger and easier to read while racing is key. Also, we've got cooling. I've got a personal air conditioning unit right here that hits me from the front. And then I've also got a side fan that's blowing straight through the window, which is awesome because core temperature, once you get it up, it's so hard to produce power. So keeping core temperature is key, or down is key. And another way I do that is this great jersey that my team sponsor Bora made. This is called the Helium jersey. As you can see, super, super breathable, and it keeps your core temperature down, which is absolutely important with indoor cycling or indoor racing. Last thing in my cave here is my children's art. Hang up different art through there just to look over and keep things positive because e-racing can get a little brutal and mentally challenging at times. So it's always good to have something to bring your spirits up. That's also why I've got the lights going, just because it makes me happy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and hope you enjoy e-racing, and hope these tips help.
It's Timmy Bauer from the Above and Beyond Cancer team. I think we're going to see him in the elite men's race later on in the day. Big part of that was just being happy, just keeping him motivated, keeping him chill. I know a lot of people put the dog bed by the trainer for that reason. Having a fan there to cheer you on helps.
Absolutely. That was a really sweet video, and I think getting to kind of see the logic and the thought process behind a lot of what he was doing is really cool. And I also wrote down in my notes just happy. I think that happiness can go such a long way, and virtual racing can be kind of lonely. So having those little things, whether it's your dog bed or your kid's art, I think it's such a sweet little anecdote, and I think it can make a huge difference in performance. So I loved getting to see that little clip.
Back to Catanzaro, your leader on the front here. Trying to hold off Jaden Yeager, who has brought back a little bit of time down to about 200 meters. 300 meters, check that, up the road, but remember it was 500 at one point, so Yeager making a little bit of progress here.
I think given the gap that we have here with the amount of time left, I would definitely, if I was Catanzaro, I would definitely be worried about Yeager out on course. The gap just continues to come down, and it doesn't look like, although it doesn't look like Catanzaro is all that worried, it looks like he is going pretty easy just based off of that little rainbow placard that we have. So I wonder if maybe he is just willing to let Yeager catch him, and then they can work together.
They certainly need to worry, or at least be thinking about, making sure you still have enough to get to the finish line. 20K to go can be a long way if you're starting to feel like you're on the rivet or you're about to crack. I'm sure Catanzaro would love to be able to get a draft from Yeager. At the same time, that is, a guy that can beat you in a sprint, let's put it that way. So I don't know if Catanzaro wants to ride with Yeager into the finish. Different categories, though, so maybe he would say, I'd rather just take my age category if he's solely focused on the Stars and Stripes jersey here. But I think Catanzaro and Yeager like a good race anyway, so they may link up and try and race it out here. Further back, Kellison in third spot, leading these chasers and also leading his age category in the 45 to 49 age group for Kellison. So Gumbel here, even though he's third place on the road, he would be in second place in his age category because you see the jerseys next to his name. Gumbel is second with the light blue jersey of the 35 to 39 age category. So even though Jaden Yeager is second on the road, he is first in his 40 to 44 age category. These guys about to hit the bottom of the climb here. Wondering if maybe Yeager trying to give himself a little bit of time on the climb, kind of sag climbing a little bit, open up the space before you get to the climb, knowing you may lose time there, and he might end up right back with this group. So Yeager's a big guy. He is not a small rider, let's put it like that. He's a diesel engine. He's a time trial rider. He's like those long, sustained efforts. So maybe trying to get ahead on the climb here, knowing that he might lose time.
Yeah, and that is another, kind of element with virtual racing. I don't know how it compares on the RGT platform to some of the other popular platforms, but climbing is real, and I believe all of these riders today do have to be on a smart trainer. They're not able to just be on their rollers. They have to be on a resistance trainer so that their trainers, it's so cool, have resistance that they'll add when they get to sort of the harder parts of this course profile. So there really is a real element to climbing. It's not just going out for a flat ride. You are emulating that resistance of going uphill at a steep grade. So there might be a little bit of strategy coming in from Jaeger on this part of course.
The technology with these trainers is insane. I mean, they're riding, the way that it's responsive to the course is totally mind-blowing. As you go uphill, it gets harder to pedal. They also now have accessories that will lift your fork up so it feels like you're going uphill. They have a fan that increases how much air it's blowing over you as you go faster. It's crazy, and they're developing new technology. It seems like every few months there's a new product coming out. We see indoor training specific desks, like these adjustable height desks, so you can put that in front of you, get that set. A lot of riders are putting rocker boards below them now, so you have a little bit of movement side to side. It makes it a little bit more natural. It's the innovation that we've seen over the last 2 years has been unlike anything we've ever seen in the cycling world. We went from reselling 90s hardtail mountain bikes to developing this whole new indoor training technology.
It's pretty fantastic. Even for someone like myself who doesn't race indoors pretty much at all, I can still appreciate just how far technology has come. And like you said, just in 2 years, I mean, it feels like just at the start of the pandemic, this virtual racing just blew up. I remember huge discussions around, riders racing on their rollers compared to their smart trainers and kind of the ethics of that. And now it just seems that rollers are just sort of a topic of yesteryear, and now it's all about the desks and, like you said, the climbs and the fans and all of that. And I think, going back to that Pain Cave video that we got to see, even the technology behind the mesh jersey that was made by Bora was really interesting. And I think they're actually, just to nerd out on it a little bit more, those mesh jerseys I think actually do provide more cooling power maybe than just being shirtless. I think that we've seen this with some of the base layers that people will wear outdoors. So I mean, there's just so much technology now, and it's really crazy to see just how far this part of the sport has come in just a couple years.
A lot of riders are using ice vests too. I know you probably use some of those warming up for a time trial. We would see riders at some of the really hot races like a Tour de Gila or something on the road, but now that you don't have to carry that weight, you can wear the ice vest while you compete to try to keep yourself cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine that riders, that aren't riding in their living room, but are maybe in their garage, they're outdoors, or, in their basement. I think a lot of riders, you hope are going to have an ice bottle to just be able to keep that water, on their back, on their wrists, on their neck, just to stay cool. It's, like they said in that Pain Cave video, once you get your core temperature up, it's so hard to bring it back down. So it really is an art of prevention that I think a lot of these riders are starting to master.
One thing we haven't talked about a lot is the eating and drinking element of racing on the virtual platform, the nutrition that it takes for an hour-long effort. You absolutely have to eat at least a couple nutrition products, let's call it, throughout a day like this. I don't think I've seen any successful rides that didn't involve at least 1 or 2 gels or bars over an hour-long effort. It would be very easy to think, I had a big breakfast, it's only an hour, I'm going to be fine, I don't need anything on the bike. But I think just about everyone will replace some calories and sugar during an effort like this.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think anyone that we're seeing at the front of this race is going to be having a pretty dedicated fueling strategy. Whether it works for them or not is a totally different story, but absolutely everyone's trying to figure out what works. Kind of in the pre-show when we were in the Zoom rooms, I saw one rider, I don't remember their name, but they had a big Red Bull and a fork that they were just eating straight out of. I've never seen that before. Obviously, if we saw that on the start line of a live race, we would all just be dumbfounded, but it feels like virtual racing really is just kind of changing what we know about start line protocol. And so, yeah, nutrition is so huge. I think we're going to see a lot of riders just with a really calorically dense water bottle, maybe some gels, but probably not a lot of solid food, just with the intensity of this race. But yeah, you need to keep the carbohydrates coming in, especially for a race of this length and this intensity.
Split starting to happen in this group on a 7% gradient here on the way up the climb. You see Shaw got a little bit of space. Meyer moving into second position in this group. And Peterson going to try to hold on to the wheel. Meanwhile, Tom Brugel just a little further back. These guys all just trying to hold that wheel in front of them. Just hang on, but still got a lot of climbing to go until they get to the top of this climb. So it'll be a while. I hope you ate your gels already, because this is about the worst time in the world to want to eat. In virtual racing, a lot of riders have trouble eating enough because some people just don't want to eat when you're on the bike. It's pretty hard to, you're not really craving a gel when you're deep in the pain zone and you're like about to puke. You're not, craving whatever nutrition product you have. So sometimes you have to force yourself to eat.
Yeah, and that's kind of going back to what we were talking about a moment ago. Like those calorically dense water bottles are such a game changer. I'm fortunate to work with a brand like Scratch Labs that makes the super fuel, and it's 400 calories in one water bottle. So even no matter how much you do not want to eat or drink, if you can get down 1 or 2 sips, you're still getting vital carbohydrates. And so I think a lot of riders are switching to products like that because you really don't want to drink, you don't want to break your focus, and so you need to maximize those couple of seconds that you do dedicate to fueling. You can't be messing around with a protein bar that's not giving you as much as you need when you have so little time. Everything counts.
We'll see some riders in the elite races later today that actually recruit help. They have soigneurs that will stand there not only cheering them on, but also like opening the gel and handing it to them and making sure that, every little bit that they may need is taken care of. Because when you get into a scenario where you have to draft off that rider in front of you, you're in a group, 1 or 2 seconds can make the difference. I mean, you can get dropped out of the group in 2 seconds if you're not paying attention. And so on RGT, it requires constant attention if you're riding in a group to make sure that you're getting the maximum draft in that scenario. So as we work our way back up through these guys in the 50 to 64 men's age category, again, looking at Keller, Shaw, Meyer, and Tom Brugel together. Peterson has now gotten dropped out of the back of this group into 5th position. And then a little further back, we see Chiaffi, Bobolek, Helbing, Cooper, Warren, and Sonora. So this is Shaw in 2nd position, trying to bring back Keller, as these guys come to 17.4 K of racing to go. This next esports team having a good day today. That is the team of Scott Catanzaro, who we saw off the front in the 35-plus men's age category. That's Catanzaro in the upper right of your screen here. And then Stephanie Sidlick in the upper left corner, leading the 35-plus categories, with Andy Smith leading the 50-plus categories in the bottom left. Back to Catanzaro with 13.2K to get to the line, enjoying the downhill a little bit here. See Catanzaro still putting power in on the descent here. He's trying to hold off Jaden Yeager. He knows that if he registers 0, then Yeager will keep the power on, and that's going to help to bring that gap back. So Catanzaro knows he has to stay on it. And still holding Yeager to that 600-meter gap. Yeager's been chasing for a good 20 minutes now. He's got to be getting frustrated at this point, thinking, come on, I've been putting in this wattage for a long time, and I'm not making any progress.
If anything, it looks like Catanzaro's gap is actually going back out. So I think that could be really discouraging for Yeager, who did kind of boldly decide to go away from that group that he was with. But it looks like a big gap now over 3rd place and that chase group. So I don't think that it was for nothing, but definitely a little discouraging for Yeager to not see this gap coming down anymore.
And he's also got to start doing the math right now, looking at 12.7K to go. I have a 400-meter gap to make up. You start thinking, okay, if I can bring back 100 meters per K or whatever the formula you come up with is, just to try to keep yourself
Thanks
going.
For the encouragement, everybody.
Out of time here, running out of
it was super helpful.
Try to bring back
Julian, thanks, man. You really pushed me to close that gap. That was awesome.
Back to third. Tapping out just over 4 watts per kilo here.
All right. Let's do this, baby.
Gumbel behind him. And it looks like Jaeger is gone from this group. I don't see that one coming back. Jaeger. Oh, we're looking at Gumbel here chasing back. Sorry about that. Gumbel with the time trial bars here. Or at least time trial format. Wishing he had some time trial bars.
You have to imagine.
I gotta make sure
like
Deca does not come back.
Little,
so,
kind of
Deca
there's
is
so few
480 meters
really
back.
And as we're seeing,
I need to make sure he
screen,
can't
this is pretty much the
close this gap on the descent.
All day. There isn't.
So I'm gonna push a little bit here.
To get up out of the saddle, you don't get to move the bike really side to side at all. So moving forward, even just to change the position in the muscles you're recruiting ever so slightly into that time trial position, probably feels like a little bit of a welcomed vacation, for your legs, for your core, for your arms. And so I think that is a big element of fatigue is, oh my gosh, I have to sit in this exact position for an hour and 15 minutes.
You very rarely see riders standing up on the virtual platforms as well until it really gets down to the end of the race and like they're on a big climb. It's more the desperate times of the race that you see the riders starting to stand up. It's not so much, I think you lose a lot of efficiency when you stand up on the virtual platform. Looks like some riders coming together over in the 50 to 64 age category.
I want to guarantee it, Julian.
Shaw, who are now linked up.
This will guarantee the podium.
Off the front. Keller brought him back, and now these two going to be riding together. Again, 2 different age categories here with Keller representing the 50 to 54 age category, and Shaw in the 55-59 age category. I hope I'm still playing video games when I'm in the 55 to 59 age category.
I'm gonna try to keep him out at 500.
The riders are competing in. We have 4 races on course right now for our Masters categories. It's basically 2 men's races and 2 women's races. The younger Masters and older Masters for both the men's and women's categories. So you see the light blue and pink jerseys on the very left-hand side of that graphic. Looking at the 50-54 and 55-59 age categories. Those are the 2 riders on your screen right now. The bottom right with Keller wearing the 50 to 54 jersey and Shaw wearing that pink 55 to 59 jersey. The jerseys replace the number series that we normally have at national championships. It's not unheard of for these Masters riders to race against multiple age categories. Like when you go to Masters Road National Championships, they're all out on the road at the same time, but they use the bib numbers with different number series to determine which riders are in which age category. So like if you have a 500 series number, you would be in the 50 plus category. If you have a 600
yeah,
series
I think you're
number,
right, Teppy.
you'd be in the 60 plus category. Obviously, we don't have numbers in virtual racing.
We're looking
so
good
we use the jerseys
for the bronze.
To help riders distinguish between the different categories out there.
Looking good for the bronze.
That's one fun part about virtual racing, Ellen. You never have to pin another number in your life.
That sounds pretty nice to me, but I don't know if having a race in my basement forever is worth that payoff. But I think for some
you don't
people,
get to go to Europe for like a few months at a time, but you do get to skip out on pinning numbers.
yeah, this is hard to replace somewhere like racing in the Dolomites, but you know, there are bonuses. There are definitely pros and cons to each.
I'm sure you had some days in Europe where you look out the window. It's raining,
Deca's closing the gap. I'm gonna start working again.
Maybe I would be better off in my basement right now.
Yeah, I've had several of those days. where you end up, you know, you're like, oh, I think I'd rather just ride the trainer. I don't want to go outside. And then almost always you're like, oh, this was such a pain to get set up and to get fueled and to remember what I need. And I should have just put on my raincoat and gone outside.
I think we're going to see more and more permanent training setups for a lot of riders. It's becoming one of those almost non-negotiable things. Kind of like when you're looking for an apartment or looking for a house. Now all of a sudden everyone wants a home office, right? You need an extra room now to have an office space, which 2 years ago, open concept, everything, what could go wrong? You know, as long as we're not stuck in our houses together for 6 months at a time, it'd be great.
Yeah, I can relate to that. When I broke my back, I had a permanent training setup because I was riding the trainer a lot. I was not doing any virtual racing. But yeah, we called it my Babe Cave because we had a little sign that said Babe Cave instead of Pain Cave, so we thought that was quite funny.
Jaden Yeager down to about 330 meters on Catanzaro now. He is bringing it back, but this has gone back and forth a lot. Went out to 500, down to 300, back out to 400, back down to 350 right now. He's doing good wattage here, tapping things out at right around 4 watts per kilo. This is his nearest competitor in age category for Aristophos at about just under a kilometer back. So I don't think this is a threat for Yeager. They got 8.6K to go. I don't see Soffels making up a kilometer over the next 8.6K. So I think Yeager is safe for his national championship, but knowing Jaden Yeager, I think he wants to catch Catanzaro as well and take the overall win here today. A little further back with Brian Kellison again here. Kellison currently leading his 60 to 64 age category.
Yeah, that's right, Teppy. You got your boy Hodges. He's got competition here for the bronze in his age group. The purple jerseys.
Not sure what that is.
It looks like it's like a Safeway brand seltzer water or something like that. It would be pretty hilarious if it was just a, you know, regular kind of grocery store sports drink with such an involved setup. Some people do find that, you know, that kind of more simplistic name brand stuff, none of the complicated fancy things. Some people just really prefer that. They like to really keep it simple.
I've been training with Snickers for the better part of my life.
Oh, actually,
I'm right there.
So Kellison
oh my gosh, there is, no
is in the lead.
For me than pulling into a gas station and getting
and then
some sort of gummies. You know,
it's
you
a battle for
it,
silver
between
Ziegler and Hodges.
Oh my gosh, I don't think that anything can beat that.
Exactly. They'll never be able to recreate that in the lab with you know, all the scientists that they have working on the nutrition products. There's just something about like walking into a 7-Eleven and paying $1.20 for it that, you know, gives you that a certain je ne sais quoi.
Deca is closing the gap.
Yeah, that's hard to replicate. And in the artificial colors, the neon colors, you know, all of
no
that
one's helping
adds
me.
Another element to this healthy thing that we're doing. It really helps kind of.
It was the same thing last lap, Julian. These guys don't want to do anything. It's insane. This is a national championship. Come on.
Pretty fun treats.
So lazy.
Catanzaro still trying to hold off Yeager as we go over to our men's 50.
I've been preparing for this all week, and these guys are just slacking.
Watching this battle earlier, they have Meyer about let's see, 200
or maybe they're just smart.
Meyer still has a chance in the 50 to 60.
Maybe they're just smart.
That was the rider that we saw earlier, barely catch on.
Yeah, you're right.
What was 5 riders?
But maybe they start working towards the end. So I want to keep them close. Like if one of these guys wants to go long, I could latch on and ride that wheel to the line. That's the thing about RGT versus Swift. It's much more of a chess match.
Look at how well Shaw is locked into the draft here. The fact that these guys are barely moving position on the road really tells you how
No,
well
I'm not
they've
trying to
worked
catch the
out
next
the
group,
drafting.
Big Trow.
Really hard
I'm trying to
do.
keep
You
Deca
see his number in the upper left-hand
off the
corner is
podium.
red right now, that his current wattage showing red. That means that he's doing
Gotta
more
keep
watts
Deca off the
than
podium.
is necessary, because the game will scrub those watts off. If he's sitting behind a rider, you obviously can't ride into the back of that rider. And so if you're sitting in the draft and trying to draft, that will help you to make sure you're not doing too much work. Now,
Yeah, I can't let him back in this group.
Over and you'll go past that.
He's 15 seconds stronger than
The
me.
game tries to help you sort of stay in the draft a little bit and help you figure out exactly how many watts you need to do. So 260 is too much for Shaw when he's in the draft with Keller. It looks like his magic number is like 250, somewhere around there to sit in. But I think he's taking his turn on the front now.
Is he Belgian?
There really is so much for these riders to learn.
You have to be a U.S. citizen in this race.
Of this platform, you know, just how much you need to be doing to kind of sit on a rider's wheel and to not waste all of that energy. There's so much real world.
Maybe, Julian, maybe.
These riders
There's a little
just
lump
kind of
coming up,
Focus on that.
so I may
process.
try it there.
It's really, really neat to see.
A good look at our Zoom room here. Shout out to all the riders that made it out here on Sunday morning. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you letting us into your training room or pain cave or living room or basement or garage or green screen studio, wherever you are. All the credit in the world for getting out here and competing for a Stars and Stripes jersey here. It takes some guts to race the first Esports National Championships, but nobody is really good at virtual racing yet. I think there are a lot of people that will say, well, I'm not very good yet, but that's sort of the fun of virtual racing. We're all figuring it out together.
Yeah, I feel like there are very few people who really did a whole lot of virtual racing prior to the pandemic, and if you did, you know, you're definitely one of sort of the early adopters. And so, yeah, I think everyone, it is sort of unique that this is the first national championships of this type, and yeah, I think it's only going to continue to grow, so it's really cool to see.
Catanzaro on his way 3 kilometers out from winning the very first Esports National Championships jersey. It'll go down in the history books, I'm sure. Still a lot of details to work out on the podium award trophy scenario for a virtual national championship. We did give away an NFT in a race earlier. I did a virtual race where they awarded an NFT of the winner's jersey to the winner. So maybe that's where we're going in the future.
Yeah, I think everyone wins an NFT and then a little bit of cryptocurrency as prize money.
Yeah.
And so we're really just fully investing on this whole virtual platform. I unfortunately have no crypto to offer, so I'm not
You know what? You
volunteering
can
that for
make
anyone
one.
watching at home.
That's the beauty of crypto. I'm pretty sure you can just make one up. So if you want to hand
can
out
just
like
make
50
it.
Ellen coins to these riders, you are more than welcome to.
Okay, 50 Ellen coin to whoever wins this race. That's like my preem. Maybe we'll do that for the pro race.
There you go. All right, Keller and Shaw at 6K to go at the front of the men's 50 to 64 age category, and then Catanzaro about to wrap things up here at 2K to win his 35 to 39 age category. And then
This is why I wanted to stay in the group. Now they're moving.
To win the 40-44 age group.
Yeah, different jersey, different age group. So I'm in bronze position right now.
You have the win locked up, and now you just have to knock out that last 1.7K. You're not quite far enough out to start celebrating, but you are far enough out to sort of know that you have it. So this is a gray zone for Catanzaro right now.
I think the next big feature in virtual racing, we'll be able to have, like you said, you can have some hand movements. We need the fans lining the barriers, and the winners are able to come through and give a big high five as they come through. If they're winning, or even if they're not, if they're just enjoying the ride, they can get some high fives from the fans.
Add a little mini game, toss a bottle to a kid, sign an autograph.
All right, guys.
Catanzaro looking at the 1K banner up the road here. The flam, I don't know the word for blue or purple because it wasn't red. Flam blau, maybe. Well, Keller and Shaw inside their last 5K, but I think we'll welcome Scott Catanzaro into the line here as the very first.
Yo, Brian is strong as hell.
Here in the United States.
He's in gold position.
Keller and Shaw just passing one of our camera bots out on course. You may see a few riders just sort of putzing around out there. Those are the riders that we use to get cameras into the game and keep an eye on these riders out on course. Well, beautiful finish, just like in real life in Durango, Colorado at the Iron Horse Bicycle Classic as Catanzaro heads inside the last 250 meters before picking up his virtual Stars and Stripes jersey. The next esports rider will be your 35-39 men's national champion. No fans to swarm you. There's no medals being handed out. Nobody to dump a cold bottle of water on your head. But I'm sure we'll get there. Jaden Yeager in next. This will be your men's 40-44 national champion. There you go. Yeager with the post up coming through the line. That's what I'm talking about.
Fantastic. Do you have to hit the space bar to be able to do that?
Yeah, I'm not sure how it's done in the game, but you do have to select the celebration and know when to do it. Meanwhile, these guys on their way in, Kellison, Soffels, and Gumbel trying to work things out here. Kellison going to win his age category here. Actually, all three riders pretty much have their
Brian
in the age category, but they are still going to race this finish out. Soffels will be second in the 40-44. Gumbel going to be second in the 35-39. And then Kellison going to win his 45-49 age category. So bravo to these guys. Way to stick together. Hang in there. Soffel's going to give it a go here on the finishing stretch. Gumbel goes right over the top. Kellison's like, you guys have fun. These two sprint it out. And, I was going to say Gumbel gets it. Looks like he held on. Kellison comes in just behind them. For a pair of
I'm so happy for Brian.
Championship for Brian Kellison in the 45-49 age category. Congratulations, Brian. All right, so the rest of that group about 2 kilometers out. Looking over at our 50-64 age category, our older masters men's category. Going to be finishing up on the right side of your screen, about 2.5K from now, with Keller and Shaw still together. Masters women's category is the 35-plus category on the upper left-hand side of your screen. Sidlick still out in front with 8.5K to go. And then in the 50-plus category, Andy Smith still leading the way solo with just under 15K remaining for her. So some tough solo efforts out there, basically an individual time trial national championship for these two. So you see Stephanie Sidlick tapping out a nice steady 4.2 watts per kilo. Good look at Stephanie inside her training area here. I always like when we see a second bike set up next to it. I can just imagine training side by side with your significant other or training partner.
It sounds fun until you consider, do the tensions get high? Do you ever are you ever like, please stop breathing so loudly, I need to focus?
Yeah, proceed at your own risk, I guess, racing with your significant other.
I share a desk with my significant other.
Oh boy.
Sorry.
Bronze medal, baby.
If you can get through
bronze medal.
Racing would be nothing for you guys.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Smith on the front. 12.5 to go for the 50,
oh man,
rider.
That was crazy. Thank you, Zava. Thank you, Spoon. Appreciate the cheers. All proceeds are going to go to Foundation. You guys are the best. Thank you for all the encouragement, all the messages, the tactics, making sure I don't screw this up. Oh, man. That was great. Wow. Ooh. Wow. And we got a gold medal from Brian Kellison. Oh my gosh. I'm so pumped.
Here goes Shaw into the red zone for the last 300 meters.
Wow.
Finish it out.
Oh, thank you, Beats.
I love seeing the power.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate you coming by. All right, I'm going to end this ride.
Yeah, you just see a big mesa.
Yep. Kind of tops out just as he gets to the line and then gets to let off and celebrate on the way in.
And
hour 28
we'll go cool down
in the saddle for Keller on the way in as he wins the men's 60 to 64 age category.
Third place, Texas. We got the bronze medal for the 35 to 39 age group. And that's preliminary results. I did notice that Scott Catanzaro, who won my age group, he did not submit a weigh-in video.
In the 60-64 age category. Way to go, Jeff.
Catanzaro did not submit a weigh-in video, so this could be silver.
Tom Burgell, also in that group, gave it a go today.
Unless he submitted it via email. But he did not put it into his eBio passport. So we'll see. But it's definitely the podium. So we're going to cool down here. Oh, man. That was awesome. Thanks again, guys. Really appreciate you coming and cheering me on. Next up is the men's elite race. And our boy Slow Spoon is going to be racing in the elite race that begins in 15 minutes. So what I'll do, Slow Spoon, once you get going, I'll send my viewers over to you and we'll watch that race next. Oh yeah. Spoon. No? All right, well. Ah! Dang, okay. Well, Let's see if anyone else in the elites is going to be streaming.
Last 200 meters, I guess, especially hard. All right, so more riders out on course. Our women's 35-plus category in the upper left, women's 60-plus riders in the bottom left, and then some of our men's 50-plus riders finishing up.
I'm going to go over to Tony's stream and just congratulate him. And then we'll go over to...
But a few categories already finishing up, so 5 national champions already crowned. We're about to crown a few more with our Masters women about to finish up, but we did see Catanzaro in for the 35-39 age category. Jaden Yeager will win the 40-44s. Brian Kellison gets a national championship in the 45-49 age category.
Kellison!
For the Cinch Rise team, who are 50-54 national champion. Kelly, we saw rolling.
That is so awesome.
5 new national champions in the USA Cycling Esports Nationals, and we're about to crown a few more because our Masters women are on the way in. Right now, you see the 35-plus category leader Stephanie Sidlick with 4.8K left, and then Anna Smith at the front of
All right.
categories with 9.7K to go.
That was a tough course. And I definitely raced a lot harder than most of the guys out there. Oh, it looks like Brian's doing an interview right now. Or maybe he's just chatting.
Incredibly talented rider here in the 35-plus category. In addition to being one of the top virtual racers in the country right now, she's also a PhD in organic chemistry. She got a PhD from a school called MIT. You may have heard of it.
All right, I'm going to go over to Brian now. Let's check out
Published a research in
his stream.
science.
I'm going to shout out. Oh, I don't have my bot on.
The principles of molecular design. So I understood about 2 words out of that, but I can tell you that Stephanie Sidlick is probably smarter than both of us combined.
I would have to agree, and I hope for Stephanie's sake that if she's able to
Oh, man. So we'll cool down for maybe 15 minutes here.
no one wants to think about their PhD.
And then,
They're about to win.
and then recover for the rest of the day. That was intense. We'll take a look at some of the stats here.
I'm just looking at a paper she had published in 2007 entitled Peptide Functionalized Reduced Graphene.
Oh, very cool, Tobin.
Bioactive, robust tissue
And
regeneration
the did pre-recon. I did a pre-ride for 1 lap as hard as I could on Monday. As hard as I could on Monday. Just to get an idea of how hard I could go for 1 lap. Because I was in the back of my mind, I was going, well, Hodges is a national, or he's a world championship competitor, right, for the USA, and he's been racing the echelon racing league.
Brian beat someone
Thanks, Dave.
who is going
Good job,
to be
dude. I saw you
competing at
trying to get them to
Worlds.
work, but yeah, it's team stuff, dude. RGT is too yo-yo-y. Yeah, man, it's not for everybody. It's cool. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. But
so Brian was off the back of that lead group.
That first climb, that was in the back of my mind as a big dude. Like, I'm 6'5", 88 kilos, and I did a weight verification last year on the same day I did weight verification for this race. Do you know how much I weighed last year? February 18th, 2021.
Brian was off the
81
back.
kilos. I'm 88 kilos.
And he was almost going to end up in my chase group.
And I was so lean because it was just trying to be.
But
as
he
lean as
bridged
possible
up
for
to
Dick.
that front group
Put me in a way
and
in a
locked
place
in
where
his
I actually
win.
like being 81 kilos. It's not like I was in discomfort. It's just I took a break and went off the rails and put on a lot more weight. You did 0 work. Good. Good. Don't do any work, thank you. Yeah, I'm like 6'5", 6'6" sometimes. Thank you so much, Ishar. Oh, Ned, how you doing? Yeah, Ned, thanks, man. Appreciate it, dude. Thanks, everybody. I don't know who's here. I'm not even looking at my viewer count, so welcome, everybody. I appreciate it. But I want to give, here's the thing. The key moment for me was I knew that I could do it in like 6.5 minutes. If you look at my score on that segment, the big climb, right? I knew all the little sharp guys.
Yeah, so
And I was
Brian
like, hey,
climbed it in
Hodges is
6.5.
going, a
It
couple
took
other
me
people are
like
going.
6:50.
And you can go back and watch it in the stream. I was like, holy cow, I'm getting dropped. So just try to get over, set my own pace. Don't go super deep in the red. I was in the red. But you're 6'1", 6'2", depending on the wind. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Ed. Or Ned. Yeah, Ned. It was. I dug so deep on that first climb. Like I only was a second off of my PR, which I did on Monday, which was like 6:35, and I think I did it in 6:37 or something like that. And I was like, holy cow! I'm just like, holy cow! And then I saw Hodges had fallen off, and then we crested. Because the thing about that climb, because I did that course so many damn times, was you crest, right? And let me check my email in case they need like, hey, we need this.
Yeah, let me check my email too. Nothing yet.
And I came across, and it's that false flat at the top. Like you cross the segment, and a lot of people just let off. But I knew I roll over, and so for me, I have at least I believe, I have the ability to kind of recover real quick, come off of the gas, but still crest over and then set my own tempo and sort of stay in that sort of 165 heart rate, but still get into my time trial sort of situation. And what I did was I was like, dude, let's work, man. Let's go. Like, work with me. And he didn't want to work for some reason. Maybe he was gassed. I don't know. Like, I would love to talk to him. Like, I have no animosity. It was just sort of like, that's the sort of thing. It's like the heat of the moment where I'm like, come on, let's work. Let's put this away. Woo. And I just sort of stayed there. And that thing was, for me, was I had the group up ahead to chase. Because for me, I'm always in that no man's land a lot, or no people's land, or no person, whatever it is. But I'll make people work to chase me, and then when we come back, I feel that I can recover if you get me. But if I can bridge over, and they're fussing around because it's teammates, I don't really know, because Condizaro just rode away from everybody.
Yeah.
And then Yaden Yeager was like, okay, I'm gonna hang in, and I think he attacked right at the last kilometer for the first lap. And then stayed away. But
oh my gosh, that was intense.
The thing was, I can get in my own groove, work towards getting to them if they fuss about, like I was saying. And I did bridge, and I stayed with them, and then they counterattacked me like right away, and that really hurt. Oh my goodness, that hurt. And I just dug so deep. I was like, dude, just go, stay. And in the back of my mind, all I kept thinking is, I gotta do 6.5 minutes one more time. I have to go as deep as I possibly can for 6.5 minutes. Now, I think I did it in like 7:05 or whatever it was. But
yeah, he had to stay with
like
that
was
group.
like that was seriously the biggest mental challenge of the whole race. Was when we were coming around for the restart and coming around the start finish for that second lap. I was like, dude, I know you don't want to do it because it sucks, but it's a national championship you're going for. So it's only 6.5 minutes, and just tick off 30 seconds at a time. So I was going 30 seconds, and I had to get in a gear that I was like, okay, boom, boom, boom. And they kind of rode off. Gumbel and Sophilis or whatever his name, I can't remember his name.
All right, we're gonna cool down 4 more minutes here.
Stay in your own group. Stay in your group. Don't do anything. Just stay. And I was thinking,
we're here with Brian.
Hodges and
he won.
Start working together and
to
kind of chase
49.
back. And I'm thinking, I would love for it to stay like a kilometer ahead. If we could stay a kilometer ahead, I would feel comfortable with that. And all of a sudden, we crest, and I just keep driving it. I don't care about Gumbel. I don't care about I'm driving it myself because I'm in my own world right now, and I don't care if I pull them back. Like, it doesn't even matter to me. And then we were getting with like 5K to go, so I just kept driving it, right? And we kept going up and up and up. And there was no coordination with the group and the chase group, right? Hey, Spoon. Yeah, watch the VOD, everybody. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, yeah. Oh, thanks, Beats. Yeah. You can go back and watch it. I'm going to go back and watch it, obviously. And I'm going to watch the USA Cycling replay. But I was so focused on the race that I wasn't even looking at the other coverage. Or I kind of glanced at chat every once in a while, and you guys' encouragement was just so helpful. It was like riding by and somebody yelling, like, keep moving. So then I just kept driving, and I just kept looking. I kept looking at this, and it was like, tick away.
Oh my
and
gosh!
And I kept seeing the rider distance, right? So it's not seconds, it's distance, which I kind of like. And it's 800. It would go down when we would do a climb, and they would be chasing.
All right. So that's it, folks. U.S. Nationals in the bag. That was really exciting. It's exactly played out sort of how I expected it to. I was definitely studying the competition, and I knew that the next esports guys were going to be the ones to beat. So I came into this sort of thinking that my race was for the bronze. And I did expect myself to be able to stick with Gumbel over that first climb at least. But he's so much stronger than me. We'll go to the eBio Passport site. And you can see, you know, my 5 minute is 3:58. Or my best 5 minutes is 3:70. And then we go over to Gumbel. And Gumbel's 5 minute is 4:31. So he's just a whole sort of category above me. And then Catanzaro, I mean, he's a TT specialist. So I kind of suspected he'd go off the front and do his own thing. And he did. So we'll see how things shake out once the results are official. Let's take a look at the exert. So we did get a breakthrough here, bronze appropriately. And we do have a new threshold power, up 8 watts to 328. So breakthrough, baby. Gains. That's pretty awesome. I'm pretty proud of that. I was expecting a fitness bump, but that's pretty big. So that's super exciting. That is pushing me closer to the elite category. So the other good thing about this race, looking ahead, I do have New York State Championship coming up in May. Real life race. And that similarly has about an 8-minute climb on the course. And so this was a nice little test of my fitness ahead of ahead of the New York State Championship. And to see these numbers and to see my power bump here is really encouraging. So let's take a look at the breakthrough. I do suspect that that was at the end. Oh wow, no, it was going over the top on the first climb. Wow. Ouch. So painful. Awesome. So some solid gains there. Then let's take a look at the Strava. And I'm going to wrap it up here in 2 minutes. Wow. Strong efforts. Ouch. All right. So we're going to wind it down here. So next up now you've got the Nationals race for the elites starting up here right now. I don't think anyone else is streaming it, but I'll send you guys over to Brian. Or I'll send you guys over to ES TV. I think Brian's going to be wrapping up here. All right, thanks again, everyone, for joining. What a day. Bronze, baby. I'm excited. I don't know when I'll be streaming next. I'll probably take a day off tomorrow. Definitely going to be streaming Zwift Racing League on Tuesday night. And ahead of that, we'll do Recon. I guess we'll do Recon tomorrow. So yeah, that'll be the next one. All right, folks, take care. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And we'll see you on Tuesday.